nuestro segundo seminario del año de Focus Cities. Yo me llamo Alma Leiva, soy la gerenta de programas comunitarios aquí en California Walk y voy a ser su anfitriona
at
de hoy.
California Walks, and I'll be the MC today. California Walks is the state voice for pedestrian and cyclist safety.
De cualquier edad y cualquier habilidad, brindamos asistencia técnica a las comunidades para crear comunidades transitables. Tenemos programas que desarrollan talleres de planificación comunitaria y también trabajamos a nivel estatal para poder promover oportunidades de
To
transporte.
promote opportunities for safe transit.
Y en otros programas que tenemos, somos socios con UC Berkeley Safe Track.
We are partners with UC Berkeley Safe Track,
De ciudades focales,
and we're working on focus cities with them.
Un saludo a Garrett,
So thank you to Garrett,
cogerente también en este
who is the co-manager of this program. For those who don't know UC Berkeley Safe Track, it's the Center for it's a research center at Berkeley at the Institute of Transit Studies, working to reduce injuries and deaths caused by transport, and they're working in service to the community. And they coordinate different programs for safety programs, and at the state level. We also want to thank the Office of Traffic Safety, because this has all been possible by a grant from that office. And they help us to be able to do this type of work. And so we thank you to the Office of Traffic Safety for their support in this programming in our California communities. Before we get started, I want to remind everyone to please maintain the mute button, or keep the mute button on. And that way it'll be, and then we'll definitely make this recording available after. If you don't want to be recorded, make sure to stay on mute or to use a chat. But if you don't mind being recorded, you can ask questions during the webinar. You can use, and you could also use the chat feature for that. So we're extremely excited. I'm personally very excited for this webinar. And it's all about the development of programming in Spanish. And in the programming that is in general available to our community for pedestrian and cyclist safety. It's an opportunity to talk about the programs in a way that goes beyond what we're used to, but also talking about those that are culturally relevant and that takes into account the way our community navigates a public space. For example, maybe someone who's undocumented, or who that is maybe only speaks Spanish, or that is also maybe a member of the LGBTQ community that might be navigating the spaces in a very different way. So speaking of that, I'd like to introduce our panel of speakers. We're going to hear from Ana Lopez, who's from SafeTrack, from Gema Perez, who's the Executive Director of Greenfields Walking Group, Nancy Sin, and from Gabby Segovia, who's also a promotora. And I don't want to take any more time, so I'm going to pass the voice to Ana. Thank you, Alma, for the introduction. Thank you to everyone. I am Ana, and I'm one of the coordinators for Spanish speaking for the California program for pedestrian and cyclist safety. I'm really honored to share this space with so many inspiring women who have worked in advocacy and who have really achieved so much in their communities.
Next slide. El tema central de hoy es acerca de la importancia de la accesibilidad
Today we're going to be talking about
y cuando se
access
trata de
to
involucramiento
um,
y participación comunitaria
linguistic
inclusivo
inclusivity.
y equitable, o en inglés como decimos el Inclusive and Equitable Community Engagement, es necesario reconocer el valor que tiene la aportación diversa, el valor
So what we recognize is the value and the
de todas
impact
las
that we
comunidades,
have
que lengua,
in our
origen, su estatus,
community without
identidad sexual,
taking into account
ser
where
capaz de
people feel
abordar
most
los problemas en
comfortable,
las diferentes intersecciones de la
and that way we can
identidad y tener
address
concientización acerca de
where
las
people feel most
diferentes,
comfortable.
identidades que forman el CISA. Entonces, el siguiente slide. Y para darnos un poco una
So
idea
that we have a little bit of an idea of why we're
esto,
talking
y
about
por qué es
this
importante,
and why it's important.
el instituto
The Institute, the Policy Institute,
Project Policy Institute nos dice
Project
que
Policy
el
Institute
39%
says that
de residentes de California
29% of,
tienen,
39% of residents of
ahora forman
California
el grupo
are
alto
Latina,
de todos otros
and
países en comparación a todos otros grupos.
they are the majority in comparison to any other group,
De la población,
and about a third of the
eso,
population.
que tienen 5 años o más hablan
Oh, that have
menos que muy bien. Entonces, esto nos dice
that
mucho.
that
¿Por
speak
qué esto es
Spanish,
importante? Porque
that speak English,
inclusión lingüística
that consider that they don't
y
speak English
cuando se
well.
trata de programas y programas
So then when we're talking about
que
programming,
son de transporte. Siguiente slide. Next
sorry,
slide.
excuse me.
Y para darnos, y en el campo de transporte seguro,
So in the area of transport safety,
modelo del queso suizo para
we talk
decir
about
que
the Swiss
se
cheese
necesitan muchas
approach
capas para
and knowing that we need
llegar
many layers to be able
cero
to
emisiones, en el
get
transporte.
to
Entonces,
zero
aquí
injuries.
estamos viendo que para
So here we're
mejorar
seeing that
el éxito de poder tener la
to
inclusión
improve
lingüística,
success,
se
we want to
necesitan
have,
varias capas y múltiples
in order to
approaches,
get language
o
inclusivity,
sea que los
we
socios
have different
que
approaches.
si hay
We need
socios comunitarios,
community
accesibilidad,
partners,
lenguaje técnico,
we need technical language
y eso se trata
accessibility.
como de poner los términos que muchas veces para organizaciones que trabajamos en este espacio ya sabemos lo que significa, pero cuando queremos
So
trabajar
for
en
many
otras
people,
comunidades,
we
tenemos
have
que
our language that we know we speak
hacerlo
in
que
this
sea más
in this particular field, but we want to make sure that that
realmente
is also
realmente
accessible.
accesible.
And so we want it
Otra
to be
cosa,
culturally
otra de esas
accessible.
capas es también el conocer
Another layer is
comunidad
also
y
the
poder
community knowledge
enfatizar que
and
ellos
emphasize
tienen
that the
conocimiento.
community has a lot of
Y también
knowledge,
tener empleados bilingües y eso es
and also to
importante
have
como
staff that is
contratar
bilingual,
a personas que
and
hablan el idioma
so that we want to
tener un programa
work with people that know the
en
language,
ese
knowing that
programa
if we're going to have a program in Spanish and in a certain language, is that we want to be able, or we want to be able to get interpreters or people from the community. So all of these layers can be mixed, but all these multiple layers help to improve accessibility. And also it has a lot to do as well that in our communities, when we're talking about cyclists, our cyclists look different in our communities, like the person who is commuting to work, maybe like a construction worker who is going to work, or it can also be the corn vendor who is working on his bike to be able to live, and that's their way of working. So it's important to know these differences in our communities when we're talking about the problems about, or maybe issues that cyclists face, we are able to take into account these differences.
Siguiente slide. Next slide. Y también se trata de que
And then it's also
son
about the
diferentes
fact that in our
y
communities,
son diferentes, porque
how
cuando
different
decimos
areas and spaces look
que hay un
different.
anillo de la Virgen de Guadalupe, ¿verdad?
Like here is a mural of
Significa eso
the
para nuestra iglesia.
Virgin Mary and
Next.
what that means for our community.
Y cuando estaba hablando hace rato de la
And when I was
accesibilidad
talking a while ago about
del lenguaje técnico
accessibility
y la
to technical
representación
language
cultural,
and
se
cultural
trata de ser un poco más
relatability,
activista,
it means being a bit more active and look for ways that we can demonstrate these strategies
de ingeniería, más
that
allá de
of
solo
maybe
ser,
like the
una
engineering that is
presentación
more than
como
just a presentation with slides.
como en este ejemplo que se ve aquí,
So in this example
un juego de
here,
lotería,
we
donde se
used
puede
a loteria
estudiar y
game,
disfrutar acerca de las
and that way we
temáticas
can
en una
discuss
forma que
all these different
nuestra
terms
comunidad
in a way that for our
que
community
conozca,
is
¿verdad?
is very well
que
known.
es
And this is a game
de
that
muchas
has
generaciones y
so many generations
muchas
behind it, and it's been
generaciones
used for
como
generations in our
se llama
community.
lotería, y entonces también poder usar ejemplos, pues,
And then that way we can use examples that we know, that our community knows.
Siguiente slide. Next slide. Y también enfatizar el
And then
conocimiento de la
also
comunidad. Esto es uno de los puntos
emphasize
que hablé hace rato, pero también enfatizar que la comunidad tiene
that the community,
mucho conocimiento de su
emphasize that the
comunidad,
community has a lot of
poder
knowledge about their own community
poder,
and be able to present that
cuáles son las cosas que necesitan en su
and talk
comunidad.
about
Enfatizar
what are
eso.
the things that they need in their community and emphasize that.
Y aquí también hacer una caminata con
Also doing a walk with the community,
también enfatiza eso del conocimiento.
and that also emphasizes their knowledge of the community.
Y para el programa de comunidades activas y seguras, que es un
So
programa
for
que
our
tenemos
pedestrian and bike
anterior
safety
de
program,
y
this is another program that we have with SafeTrack.
Eso fue casi nuestro proceso
This was
de
pretty much
desarrollar
our
este
process
programa,
to develop the
buscamos
program.
las mejores prácticas, que eso va
We
con
looked
el desarrollo del currículum,
for improvements that were
con
practical.
comunidades,
We met up with communities that
que expresaron que tenían
that
interés en el
expressed that they
programa,
had an interest
hacer
in the
una
program,
alineación
and
de
then that we were doing
y nuestros objetivos y
we
trabajar
lined up
para poder,
their and our objectives to be able to better align the program and with what they needed and wanted to do. And then formed a committee planning, a planning committee, sorry. And then also found other people that could help with the objectives that they had. And then that way, knowledge, have a knowledge transfer. So it's, so be able to transfer the knowledge that we have as people working in this field, but then also the knowledge that the community has. And then that way we could look what is working, what's not working, and make changes. And then that goes back and forth as well. That's never stable. These were some of the products of that program. We created a radio novela, radio soap opera. That was a podcast. And then that way other members of the community could listen. And then we also got a report made as well. And then finally, I will leave you with this last resource where we talked a little bit about other strategies that are non-traditional that can be used to involve the community. So we can use sensory engagement. We can use trauma-informed community engagement, and then empowerment of communities through shared responsibilities and ownership of the project. And so that is all for me. And I will pass the mic over to the next presenter. Thank you so much, Ana. And we are going to be hearing now from Gemma from Greenfield in Kern County. Hello, good morning. I'm Gemma Perez. I am the director of Greenfield Walking Group. We've been walking for 16 years, but 10 years ago, we've been started our journey as a nonprofit in Bakersfield. Our main focus are safe routes to school and parks.
Es que hacemos zumba gratis en los parques, especialmente en esos parques que la gente tiene miedo ir porque hay vandalismo, hay pandillas. Entonces nosotros creamos esa confianza para que la gente venga, recupere sus parques, y al mismo tiempo lo que hacemos es que identificamos.
And so we want to identify the areas that are in a park, so maybe no sidewalks, no lights, the playground. So we are really involved. Also, we have a youth group. So we're about 100 people. We're all volunteers, and the youth, using Photo Voice, they are recording the problems they see in their community. So how do they get to school without sidewalks? If there are no crosswalks to get to school and to parks, and that's the way that they can tell the decision makers what they want to see. We also have a community garden where families are growing fruits and vegetables, and we love volunteering everywhere. And we do a lot of cleanups for the city.
Voluntarios, pues nos buscan, ahí estamos.
Okay, and so we also do some food bank projects. So in a little bit, I'm going to explain what these photos and talk about the program that we did with California Walks. But first, I want to say that Bakersfield is very famous for being very conservative. This has not been a challenge. It has not been an issue or barrier to communicating with the city or the county. They've had interpreters available. With Measure N that finished in June, they really made a lot of efforts to hold meetings in the morning or afternoons, times when people could make it. They also did a lot of advertising in all of the English, all of the languages that were needed, so Spanish, but also Punjabi and Mixtec. The place where we did Zumba, they also brought a lot of people. The city sent people with computers, they did tabling, and they would bring computers, and they helped people fill out surveys about what they wanted to see, what they needed. So do they want houses? Do they need new structures? But then there was a really good example that how it looks when decision makers were really looking for the best way to communicate with the community. So this is a great example of how we've worked with California Walks. And they've really helped us so that in a community that flooded, that didn't have sidewalks, that, the county said, go get surveys, get letters. And I know a really interesting story about a letter. So about a mom who has a daughter who is blind. And she said that they gave her a teacher, so they would teach her daughter to walk around the community. But because there was no sidewalks, this was totally impossible. And that this was huge for her. And so she won a grant out of 400 applicants, And maybe we could see the next here. Okay. In this first photo on the left, this is how the youth uses photo voice to talk about what worries them. And they write down the issue. And then the other photo is how we won a grant. And then, although we knew it was not enough, we were able to get even more to reach and install to reach the funding that we need to install almost 5 miles of sidewalks, bike lanes, storm drains. So that was a huge success. Here's where we're celebrating. This was in 2019. And then the sidewalks were finished last year in 2021. But because of the pandemic this year, we were able to finally have the celebration. We have our county supervisor there, and our assemblyist, Rudy Salazar, and our other decision makers that helped us get those grants. And hopefully we'll get 5 million more to be able to do this. So my message today is how working together, the city, the county, and all the elected officials and us, what we can really achieve, that we can really achieve these huge differences, little things like looking for interpretation, because
que estamos en los parques, sabemos qué es de veras lo que está pasando, si el bebedero de agua está roto, cosas importantes. Entonces es muy importante cómo podemos trabajar todos y juntos se logran grandes cambios, porque la comunidad tenemos una gran...
That's how we make big changes. Because the community has a huge heart for work to be able to make things better for ourselves and for our children. So thank you on my part. That's everything. But thank you for having me. And thank you all for being here. Thank you so much, Emma. And we're going to go on talking to Nancy from Wilmington. Hello, good morning. I'm Nancy Seed. I am mother to 3 children, and I'm also a grandmother to a little girl who is 9 years old, and I've been married for 23 years, and I'm originally from Mexico City. I live in San Pedro, but I'm usually in Wilmington, and that's why I'm so involved with this community. At the moment, I am leader from and sorry, so she's part of she's also a doula, and I'm also with LA Walks, several very important programs. And I'm also an educator and promotora for this program. I'm also involved with District 15 in the community, and we count on Fernando's work to support us. And we, a year ago, we met the CalWalks team, and we worked on the program that was about awareness, about safety, traffic safety, transport safety, and we were able to work on the radio soap opera, radio novela, talking about the issues that we saw in our community. And this is a little bit of what I now am participating in, and this is all thank you to all of these trainings. They were all in my native language, which is Spanish, and I've been able to bump into people who have been great, that have wanted to support me, to be involved in all of this. And these trainings
que fue donde la primera capacitación que yo tomé y eso
So this was the first training that I did. This was forming stronger families. And that's what we need in every community. And is someone that could be supporting the people. And then another program that helped me and another training that was through Esperanza Family Housing. And again, lots of people who have supported us. And that's how I have grown to be able to be in all of these programs. And I comment about this so that you know the different organizations and the importance of training the communities in their native language. And I don't think there's any other way that people can really understand each other better. Because what are the needs? What are the responsibilities? All hear that in their voice is something that is important. So that's why it's important that we are developing more programs through LA Walks in the Promotora program. And then that way we create more volunteerism and we want but important that organizations also recognize that it won't always want to always be volunteer, that there should be some compensation as well. This is my team at LA Watts. We were working towards a decorative crosswalk with Beth Start with LA Walks. It was a big team that supported us. And as you can see here, I'm at the side of my very great friend, Gabby Segovia, who is a great friend. And I'm really lucky that she's at every project with me. And so with that, I I finished, but I'll leave you in her hands. Thank you, Nancy. And likewise, I'm so proud to work with you. Hello, everybody. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so proud that and happy that I've been invited. Thank you. I'm so glad that it's in Spanish and I can speak in Spanish and talk about my life, my experience in advocacy and working in my community. So sometimes I always speak about why I'm here. There's got to be some reason, right? I know that everyone here, in some moment in your life, there's a reason why you're here. That you decided to work in this organization or to work in this company, to work in this agency, and there's always a why. And my reason is my children. I live in Wilmington. These are my 4 kids. I've been living here 18 years, and they are my motivation. And that's why I'm always looking at what do they need, me and my husband, what can we do for them? One thinks as a mother that we just need to give them a house and food and everything is fine. But starting to I saw that we needed something more. We're in a country where we have different culture. There are lots of people here, lots of languages, and it's really difficult to get out of the same world where there's a lot of issues. And one of the issues that I saw were their streets. They're not designed for pedestrians. And now with safe streets, I can see now that they were designed for another type of transport, but not for walking. And that's why now I right now I can see that they're just not well taken care of, not well maintained. But I can see that there is work being done, but that was one of the things that I was worried about. So I go out and I have to get involved in the community. What do I do? How do I do it? And so I would ask myself, how do I do it? Sorry. So I would tell myself, no, well, I mean, I only speak Spanish. How am I gonna do it? I only speak Spanish. Thank God I found somebody at Best Start Wilmington. I was invited to some workshops that they were at Building Stronger Families. This is for you. It's in Spanish, Gabby, they told me. And it was so wonderful to be received there. That's, as you can see there, you can see my friend Nancy, who's in that photo. But other people in the team that they're executives of Best Start Wilmington. They talked to me in Spanish. They gave me that confidence. They gave me tools. Next slide, please. And so then here, it's where I got to know Los Angeles Walks and they went to Best Start Wilmington to talk about who they were, and I loved it. I love that they're an organization that is advocating for street safety for the people who are walking and biking. They were like this angel that came, that they really gave more wind to my wings. They valued me. They gave me the tools I needed. And with them, we've been able to form this team of promotores for safer streets. And so I feel like I'm educating more people and joining the effort to educate more people and planning to be there for in the long term. And then with all of this, I've got West Best Start Wilmington. I'm getting invited, involved and working with LA Walks, Cal Walks. And we know that there are crashes of young people who are tiny, you haven't seen them, or very many youth who are about to graduate and they're there, and we don't call them accidents because accidents can be avoided. These tragedies were not accidents because it could have been avoided with some change, with some action in the streets. SBCC is another very large organization that's in my community that has supported me, given me tools. They have also helped a lot in the effort for safer streets. It's this effort between LA Walks, SBCC, Best Start Wilmington, and they're always giving us new tools, better tools. And some months ago, I was introduced to California Walks and this great project. They were coming to the community to talk more, to come and learn more about the needs in each community. So they did this great project. So they were getting information from us about our lives experiences in the streets that were, for the most part, tragic, not very good experiences. And so I really loved the way that they got the information and the way they put it in the radio novela. That's a very, very Latino. This organization knows the culture, knows the community, and knows what we can reach. The novelas are super popular with our community. Radio novelas I used to listen to as a little kid with my grandparents. I invite you to go and listen to the radio novela, these episodes with information, with the voice of the community, what the need is, what are the worries. And I heard that and I said, wow, LA Walks. And with this active and safe communities and streets, this is that in the future that I could just imagine we're going to have more people walking happily with safer streets. Next slide. So Fernando and Laura, our staff, are their of our political representation in CD15, who is Joe Buscaino. He's from the community. I think so. So Fernando is from the community. He's been someone who has really supported us. He has really connected us with the agencies or the right people that we need to know according to the issue we want to resolve. Laura Hill is the deputy in charge of transport, and she's such a person who's important. Talking about this decorative crosswalk that we did, it took 3 years of lots of outreach and talking and planning. And so she got together to hear us, to understand us. And they talked about why we wanted to, she knew that we wanted to do it, and she was there as the representative to help us. So you must all say, okay, now you've told us these agencies, these organizations, what do they all have in common? All of them spoke to me in Spanish. They speak Spanish. So as Gemma spoke about work and everything, no, I want to start with, because everyone can talk about what we're doing, but what was, before we got there, what inspired us to get there? Because there were people who spoke my voice and understood me and knew the necessity. So, and if you know the needs and you understand, you can really integrate and support and get to bigger successes. There is something that in every community and in many places in the city, there's a very serious problem that really blocks the ability to have that connection, that doesn't let us come out of our shell, which is language. Next slide. So I want you to understand, please, that if you understand my language and I understand you, there is communication. And if there is communication, the results are going to be the best. And the work is going to have the best results, positive results in short and long term. All these organizations, all these people that along have helped me be stronger. They've helped me lose the fear. They've helped me to find out that I have so much more to give to my community. They've found my talents. They're inspiring me to find more talents in the community, to tell someone that you can do it, even if you speak Spanish or another language. Look for the way that little by little they give us the information in a way that we can understand it. There was one time a representative told me, well, you're in a country where you need to speak English. And I said, yes. And I'm practicing and I'm speaking, but we're here and we're speaking Spanish. Oh, we're not going to say, no, I can't. In these few years, all that we've done, everything we've achieved, being part of different groups, to Best Start Wilmington, helped with the census, helped with vaccinations, helped with the community signing petitions. So you can't focus on that problem. We need to focus on the solution. So next slide. And then here, the result of everything we've talked about is when everyone says, there, we've done, using all the Google charts and making sure everyone that comes along with us is translating and interpreting. Here we're doing now this study to put in a crosswalk. You know, we know when you put in a crosswalk and someone sees it, it helps to slow down the traffic. But you start slowing down. This crosswalk is between the community, and this is on the walk to a school. So that's why it was really important to do this decorative cross. So this is a decorative crosswalk here because it's super, super used and it's kind of lonely and the velocities are so fast. They've even used it to race. And students use this. People who go to the swap meet on Sundays use this crosswalk. Next photo, please. So when you see this, when they are painting this day, it feels like it was a dream. That because you felt like no one's gonna understand you, it's not gonna ever come true. We got to go through a lot of things, but I would say, but if all of these people, all these organizations, if they didn't speak Spanish, if they didn't have that passion for their work, we wouldn't have been able to achieve this. Next slide. And then finally, here's the decorative crosswalk. I'm here with Nancy. And I've gone through this whole project with her hand in hand. There's always someone, a friend or someone, and you say, no, you work, no, I'll say something. If you say something, or you ask and I'll ask. And that's such a great way to be able to do it. Next slide. So that's how our decorative crosswalk looks from above. It has images that are very important for our community. Yes, it exists. I'll invite you at LA and Figueroa at the decorative crosswalk that's been made possible thanks to the community, me, my my companions in the group as well, LA Walks, District City 15, everyone together, because we could not all get to something so big by ourselves. Here is another one of the accomplishments, is this bus stop. It was just this dash in dirt. And then on the side, there was a senior building. There's a lot of family apartments as well. So for the students, and there were always lots of moms with strollers, and there were always older adults there. They were in the rain, and I would go by and I would say, how is this possible? And thanks to all of this power and all of this education that I received, I had the confidence to know I could do this. I put in an application thanks to John from LA Walks. I turned in this application. I followed up with it for a year, and here it is. I asked for a bench with a shade. And this is one of the other things that I say, wow, this is such an achievement. And sometimes you see, because you see sometimes benches where people are, that they're empty because people are looking for shade. And then you say, that's just money getting thrown away. And you have to be able to say, what is the necessity? I knew what the need was there. I told the people who were in charge of this, and then it was able to happen. Next slide. So I love all kinds of messages and positive messaging. I do. So this one says, I do what you can't, and you do what I can't. Together we can do great things. You, lots of agencies, companies, organizations have it all to be able to make a bigger, a better and more healthy community. And we have how you can do it so that it's something positive and that is actually serving the community. Because it doesn't matter if you want to invest $2, $3, $5 million in the community. If you don't ask the community the ones who live there, the ones who get up every day to jump over those potholes, to look for that shade, to have to get off of the sidewalk because there's nowhere to keep walking. How are you going to say that that money was well spent if you never ask the community? And if the community knows what you want and you ask them in their language, believe me that that money is not going to be thrown to the trash. It's going to be positively used. The community is going to be excited. And if the community excited and healthy, they're always interested in collaborating and helping. Thank you so much. And thank you for inviting me. And hopefully you have a beautiful day. Thank you so much, Gabby, Nancy, Hema, and Anna, for all the information that you gave us, for your experiences. For those who were listening, it's so inspiring to hear you, to hear all your achievements, all your development in your leadership, and as agencies to be able to keep developing those programs and projects that involve the community. Right now we're speaking about the Spanish speaking community, but all of those experiences and work can also be applied to people who speak other languages, right? That is not Spanish, right? So thank you so much. So we only have 3 minutes and we want to respect the time. So whatever question you have, you can put it in the chat. We are going to send on the recording of this presentation so you can hear it all again. And also the information of our presenters, our panelists, so that you can also direct questions to them directly. So we're also going to give the information of where these places are located, and then also tell you how you can look at Greenfield's work and Wilmington's work as models as well. Before going, I'd like to ask one question. And then that way, maybe everyone can answer quickly. How have you been empowered by having programming in Spanish? What are the things that other agencies can do to assure that you have programs or that they have programs that are going to have a big impact in the community? Something quickly because we have 2 minutes. Any of the panelists who want to answer? I'm sorry, Anma, what was that? How can you speak about how these programs have empowered you? And what is the importance of having programming in Spanish? And how can they be sure to have what is needed so that these programs have the greatest impact? From my part, what better response than what is demonstrated? We had people who spoke to us in Spanish and support, and there was positive effects. And so I think that, it's like an image is worth 1,000 words. So what tools can they use? Well, I would say with interpretation, good interpretation, that gives the community very good, a lot of confidence. It makes you feel like, okay, if you speak, I'll help you. I was helped to use the computer. They gave us a computer, give us tools. Don't just give us lots of words, but give us here it is. There's money. I know that there's money for this. So invest in that. Invest a little bit more in the community, and the community will give you so much. And I just want to commit something too that I've talked to a lot of communities that ask for a lot of things, and then they end up very frustrated. So that was the point that they're making. We don't want to fight. We want to collaborate. We don't go over there to demand. We go over there to say, here we are. The community needs this. What can we do together? So here's the language. If we understand each other, it's not a fight, it's work. Thank you, Gabby. Well, I guess with that, we'll say goodbye. Thank you so much for being here. We're going to have your questions. Again, like I said, we'll connect you with the panelists. Thank you so much. We send out greetings and that you have a great rest of the day.